What's up, everybody? Welcome to More Than Mortgage. I'm Chad Anderson. Today, we talk about the new, immediate, crazy overtaking of home buyers. 8 million of them just entered the housing market. Is that really true? Is that really what just happened because we had a dip in rates over the last couple of months? We're going to talk about this for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. I bring in Zach Jones. There he is. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Man, 8 million people. Your phone ringing off the hook yet, or what's going on?
Man, we are just buried, covered up. I got people lining up out in the driveway.
Dude, I mean, I was surprised that you had time to record the show, to be honest with you, because I mean, I was like, man, I hope I can get on Zach's schedule just for a half second to get this nailed down, because 8 million of them, that's a lot.
Yeah, I'm actually a simulation doing the show with you right now because the real me is over here taking applications. So,
is this AI Zach? Do we need to change who you are there on the screen? This is AI Zach, guys.
I don't know about the intelligent part, but I'm artificial.
All right, let's break down this math. There's some holes in this. And what's ironic, literally, Zach, just what was it, a week ago? We did the show about real estate memes. And we did the, what does this mean? What does that mean? What do all these like different marry the house, date the rate? Oh my God, if you waited on rates to drop in 77, you would have waited until 1993 and you would have been screwed and lost all this money. And there's just nothing but basically what they are is like sales tactics, right? Like they're literally sales tactics, but we took a deeper dive into some of the numbers. Well, now, since that show, we have all of a sudden started seeing 5 million people, 8 million people, 10 million people are re-entering the housing market, all because rates have dipped. And by the way, the last couple of days, they've gone back up slightly, but rates have dipped over the last 2 months since around the middle of October. And they have, no doubt, they've improved 300 to 350 basis points. But what you and I were looking at, and I'll let you kind of take it from here, is that when we were talking about this on the phone, that 8 million people coming back in, it's just so far-fetched because there's not that many homes for sale in the entire country. So it's a little bit misleading, and another one of those, hey, hurry up, don't miss out, go buy a house today tactics, but the math just doesn't add up.
Right. Well, so I'm going to be very forward because a lot of my pitch in this market is exactly this, that I do believe that people probably need to make a move now rather than later, because I don't think it's going to be better later. Right. I don't think it's going to be neutral later. I think it's going to be worse later for people who are, especially for people who are entering into the market. If you own a home and you're selling a home, you're gonna hedge that a little bit and maybe mitigate some of that risk. But I do think it's now is better than later. But these the fear mongering, maybe I don't think that that's too strong a word. The meme technically said, for every 1% that interest rates fall, 8 million new home buyers enter the market. Right. Now that's almost word for word, but the gist is very very accurate. And I think that we saw another one that was 5 million. And I couldn't understand where the data was coming from, because it simply, those kind of numbers don't make any sense if you apply it to the last 30 days, because rates came down a point. They came down 1%. And that means that 5 to 8 million home buyers entered the market with that dip in rates. Right. Now, the reason that that's impossible is that you have to look at the real numbers behind the claim like that and understand that in the most robust real estate market, do what?
It's not as much fun. It's not as much fun.
It's not dramatic, that's for sure. And I hate to be the buzzkill on real data and real numbers, but if you look at the most robust market in the history of the United States in real estate, that was 2021, and there were it was there's some discrepancy about this, but it was, did we come up with 5.2 or 6.6 million, less than $6 million homes sold? This was last week when I was looking at those numbers. Anyway, the number was actually less than how many home buyers entered the market in the last 30 days. So that's a ridiculous number. It's absolutely absurd. And so when I dug into it, I kept trying to find the source of the data behind this meme. And ultimately, I came down to this study that was done that based the numbers, or they were looking at how many home buyers got eliminated from the market with every 1% rise in rates, based on two things: the median home price and the median income. And so the number truly is that maybe a potential of 5 to 8 million potential home buyers could reach affordability with every 1% interest rate drop based on median home price and median income. But it doesn't mean that 8 million home buyers entered the market. Maybe 8 million Americans who are working and earning a living could potentially qualify to enter back into a market and make an offer on a house and qualify for it. Doesn't in any way suggest that many people came flooding into the market, because there's just not enough inventory to even sustain a percentage, a minor percentage of that.
So speaking of which, currently, and now inventory has grown, even though it's still extremely low. It low historically. It has grown over the last year and a half, 2 years from where we were. I mean, don't forget, during the pandemic, we were Zach, at around 500,000 homes for sale that were actually able to be moved into. So I don't like saying, oh, there's back then, I say back then 2 years ago, 900,000 homes for sale, but 300,000 to 400,000 of those were under contract or under construction, like pending contracts or under construction, new builds. So reality was, at that time, there were only about 500,000 to 600,000 homes that you could actually go and purchase. And that is, or sign a new contract on. And that is across the entire country. So today that has grown some. It hasn't caught up to the historic numbers. I mean, inventory is still very, very low. And a lot of that has to do with people with low interest rates right now don't want to give that up. They don't want to sell their home and turn it in and then have to turn around and buy something else and do a 6 or a 7% rate, depending on what you qualify for, what program you choose. So you look at it today, 1.5 million homes currently for sale. Correct me if I'm wrong, about 1 million of those, 1,000,001, are what are actually available. So again, this is what we were talking about, where the math doesn't quite jive here. We're in a spot where the math doesn't make sense because, like Zach was talking about, 8 million people. Okay, there's only 1 million homes. Like you can't have 8 times the number that's immediately available or immediately demanded. If that was the case, your housing market would be shooting up faster than what it did with COVID. You would have appreciation of 50, 100, 150% over these houses. And that's exaggerating and drastic, because there are other factors that would not allow for that to happen, such as appraisal gaps and just extra cash and whatever financially that you have available as a resource to make a transaction go through. But you kind of get the point in how crazy some of these thoughts and some of these numbers are. I do believe, and we can get into this for the last 5 to 7 minutes here, I do believe that with this market and this trend, people should ignore the 8 million number. That's dumb to me. Like, that is just, and it's no offense. I get it, what people are trying to do. They're trying in their own way to get the point across to people, like, hey, you better get on board now, like creating urgency.
Right.
I just don't like the creating of urgency without substance. You and I, Zach, are professionals in this industry, and we had to go figure out, where is the data coming from? Like that was the first question for us. Where's the data coming from? What's the source? And not even that wasn't provided. It was just a blanket statement. Kind of like when rates dip, people make blanket statements and it's very
Right.
frustrating. But I do think that people should recognize that over the last 2 to 3 weeks, 30 days, whatever you want to call it, I have seen an uptick in mortgage applications, phone calls, questions, people just getting their brain going. So I do truly think that this small window of time here where we're seeing some of these posts, it is actually an indicator that when these things continue to drop, things being rates, that these rates are going to spark more and more interest and accelerate what we've all been talking about. And I think just the last couple of weeks, again, that window is an example of that. Just in that small window, just that little bitty break. And all of a sudden, people are starting to ask questions again and get going and think, okay. So to me, that proves our theory. There's a lot of people sitting right on the sideline just waiting to jump in. And the more we see this is proof in the pudding.
Right. Well, and the problem with most of these market trends, Chad, is that our stories and our read on the market is always going to be anecdotal. You can't predict the future, and it's very hard to get the word out or even trust. I'll tell you what goes on in my brain. The phone rings and I pick it up, and then the phone rings again, and then I have 5 text messages in a day. What about this property? What about this property? Hey, I got a referral for you. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a great day. I'm getting some activity here, and things seem to be picking up. And you can't then say, well, the market is booming because it falls off the next day, and then it's Black Friday or it's Cyber Monday, and people aren't paying attention to it, and or the weather's wrong, and so we get this. We're trying to interpret the market in real time, and you look over the course of a week and say, hey, activity is up, and then you go to the Mortgage Bankers Association count on applications, and their data is always lagging behind. And so you say, well, there was an uptick in mortgage activity. Well, what happens if you're waiting for the end of the month report in December to come out in January the 10th? And what you find is that mortgage activity, application activity went up 25 or 35 or 45% in December. Well, you're late to the party. So
Right.
it comes back to this, is that you really shouldn't be trying to time the market or judge the market based on market activity and when is the perfect time to buy, because we don't know what that magic number is. I know there's a magic number out there where we will see this wholesale rush, but I don't know if that has a low 6 attached to it or a high 5 or a mid 5. I have no idea what that number is. It's kind of like trying to time a sale at a retail operation. If it's 20% off, does that spur a buying activity? Is it 35% off? Is it 40% off? Or does it have to go on full clearance? We don't know what that looks like. Buy when you're ready. And I would say that in this market where we're really anticipating that there's going to be a decrease in interest rates, better to buy now and hope for as long as you can afford it, and as long as that payment's going to work for you long term, hope for the opportunity to refinance down the road and buy the house that you want, versus doing what people did in COVID when the inventory was critically low,
Yeah.
overpaying for what's available. We'll take it. There's tremendous amount of compromise made in that pandemic market because inventory was so low and there was a rush.
There was.
That's not a great place to be as a buyer.
No, it's not. I was trying to share my screen, but I'm having some issues here with my Chrome extension and screen sharing, so we'll try to get that updated. But if you go back and watch one of our previous videos, and Zach's YouTube is Zach Jones Loans. Mine is This Chat is Real. Go watch us, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Go check out the previous episode. By the way, if you like and subscribe, that would help us tremendously as well. We do truly appreciate that when you're able to, and click the bell. It tells you when we go live and whatnot, or when we post content. But one of our episodes, it was about the real estate memes and about the marry the house, date the rate. Because again, this was another post where people say, "Oh, you just refinance later." Well, the consumer doesn't understand what you even mean. Like they don't a lot of them don't even understand you can buy a house and refinance it later. They certainly don't understand what kind of benefits and pros and cons are out there. And so this is where I wish I could share, but go back and watch that video and fast forward or watch it at 1.5x speed or something until you get to the part where we share the Excel file, because it truly paints. And I did this for a realtor group this morning, and they were talking about it too. They said, "Hey, we do this. Like we're telling people, yeah, you should buy now. Houses are a little bit discounted compared to what they were, and they will go back up." But again, I don't think that even they, when it's not their job to understood though the difference and the gap in the payment. And so just a quick synopsis of it is, if you buy today, the scenario we gave in that video is you're out of pocket just under $25,000 and your payment's a little over 3,200. If you wait to buy, well, you may be out of pocket $41,000 instead of 25. So $16,000 more out of pocket, because what Zach's talking about, you had to overpay for the house because all of a sudden, one, the house price went up. Two, there's more competition because rates have gone down. So now you spent more money out of pocket. Your rate is lower. So you save about $400 a month compared to buying today. However, just because you buy today doesn't prevent you from getting the future interest rate. And that's where the refinance factor comes in. So when you refinance, here's a couple of things. One, you're going to get the same rate that you would get if you bought the home. Purchase rates and rate and term refinance rates are the same. They're the same. So you're going to get the same rate on a refi as you would a purchase in that scenario. The other thing is that on the refi scenario, you're refinancing a smaller mortgage because you paid less for the house. So now your total in-game payment is $600 less than when you originally bought it. And it's almost $200 less than what it would be if you paid more for the house and waited to buy. So again, I like explaining the numbers because I want people to understand there's a reason behind some of these memes and trigger terms and ways to try to get people activated or understanding. And so we took a little deeper look at it. Highly recommend going back and checking, or reach out to Zach or myself, because we'll be glad to explain this and do the math with you. But it does make sense based on what we've seen. And the other part is we just saw it 2 years ago. It's not like you're trying to go, "Oh yeah, 15 years ago this happened, but how is that going to impact me present day?" This was literally 24 months ago.
Right.
This was not a generation ago. Okay. This isn't like how people love to relate, the '08 crash. Not the same thing.
Right.
This is literally 2 years ago, and history has a very good chance of repeating itself in a very short time span. So we'll see what happens. Zach, any final thoughts?
Well, I'd just say that I think that I'm a big fan of this idea, to play off of what you just said, of history being a great recent teacher. I'm not much interested in history and economic trends and market conditions from 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, because we're so different than we were 5 years ago. I just don't put much stock in that. But
Right.
history being a recent teacher, this thing that happened during the pandemic, if somebody had said, "Hey, this is what's going to happen if we have some sort of a viral pandemic, this is what's going to happen in the real estate market," they would have been absolutely claimed as a kook fest. It would have been absolutely, you'd run them out of town before nightfall. But we saw it and we lived it, and it happened for 2.5 or almost 3 years running. And so I think we have to look at that. The same inventory problems. Affordability is a little bit different. There's some things to be paying attention to in our recent history that are set up to potentially repeat again, especially given the fact that we've had I think we've got a lot of pent up demand from the last 18 months. So that's all.
We do. Only the future will tell us if we're right or wrong.
Yep.
But hopefully, we'll see what happens, and hopefully you make good, educated adult decisions. But just keep in mind, no matter what decision you make, you had no idea. You're never going to buy at the highest high or buy at the lowest low, sell at the highest high.
Right.
It's never going to happen. If it does, you got lucky. None of us are smart enough to nail it just like that. So
Yep.
keep that in mind. Make the best decision you can. A good decision for you would be to, again, like, subscribe, comment, follow, reach out to us in the comments. Are you guys looking at buying now? Are you hesitant? Do these conversations help? Does the math help? Does it open your eyes to other things and ways of thinking for your brain and your decision making? So let us know on that. We love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and joining us. For Zach Jones, I'm Chad Anderson. It's More Than Mortgage. We'll be back next week with another episode. Take care.
See you next time.